A show that tackles the big issues affecting the BVI and the rest of the Caribbean. Searches for answers to today's big questions and gives viewers a unique perspective on developing stories. Follow the big story with me, Kathy Richards, only on JTV. This show is brought to you by the National Bank of the Virgin Islands, Cyril B. Ramney Tertola Pier Park, NV Salon Spa Nail and Barbershop, HOV Medical, and Digicel. Sign up for Digicel Plus Home Light Bundles, faster internet, movies, and sports. This is The Big Story. I'm Kathy Richards. I want to thank you so much for joining us. And for this edition in studio with me is the Managing Director of the BVI Airports Authority, Mr. Kurt Manal. Kurt, it's great to have you here on set again. How are you doing in this moment?
Thank you for having me again, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Okay, you're missing Trini?
Well, I'm missing Lucia.
Lucia!
yeah.
But the orientation phase is over and you're really, really well settled right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
Great things are happening at the airports?
I would say so, yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. But we pass around there, around the corner going on Trellis Bay, we see some stuff happening there. That's all part of the development.
Yes, so over the coming months, you'll see a lot of work ongoing at the airport, because one of the points we make is that for many years, a lot of maintenance has not been done at the airport. Mm-hmm. The facility is actually a relatively old facility, so what we have to do now is a lot of replacement and fixing and bringing in new equipment, upgrading technology, and so on. So for example, what you're seeing outside of the airport there is an upgraded wastewater treatment plant. So our former wastewater treatment plant had reached the end of its life cycle, so we were forced to change. You will see a number of other ongoing projects, again, because of the age of the facility. But our aim is to bring the airport up to a level where the customers and the guest experience, the guests going through there, would have the greatest experience. And so to do that, we have to upgrade.
Awesome, great.
Yeah.
That was just an introduction to we're really here for big things that are happening, big celebration happening here in the Virgin Islands, what is usually happening in other countries, and it's coming here this year, and that's ACI's Airport Day?
Correct. Yes, so it's the ACI Airport Day. ACI is the Airports Council International. The BVI Airports Authority and the BVI by extension, we became a member of ACI in 2018, but well, of course, because of COVID-19 and all of that, we were not allowed to be active. But since 2021 and moving into now, we have been extremely active, and we'll be hosting the first ever ACI Airport Day here in the BVI. The purpose of the ACI Airport Day is to bring together airport development and airport management professionals from Latin America, the Caribbean, and the wider world in one event, in one location, to discuss issues relevant to the development and management of airports. We expect great benefit from that in terms of capacity building for our people, discussing relevant issues in airport development. The agenda would include areas such as air service development, airport concession management, operations management, and challenges in operations. So again, you'd have that contribution from the wider aviation community worldwide.
Okay, so you said the BVI Airports Authority became a member in 2019?
2018, 2019, yes.
Yeah. Why that move?
Well, most airports, when you join ACI, you become part of a global community, and you have access to worldwide resources. You have access to professionals who have done what you're looking to do. So the size of the airports within ACI range from airports moving 200,000 or less passengers per annum to airports moving 30 and 40 and 50 million passengers per annum. But what you find is that around the table and in the grouping, everybody has an equal voice, especially since having become a member of the governing board of ACI Latin America and the Caribbean. That is the BVI Airports Authority. We are actually a member of the governing board.
Since when?
Since this year, since January 2024. So we essentially sit on the board of directors of ASILAC, as we call it. And there you have a voice. You have access to those resources. You have access to people. You have access to experience. You have access to capacity building and exchanges with other airports. For example, one of our people just came back from Bermuda on an attachment. We have people going to various airports, and we, as management, we sit on various committees throughout ACI, particularly in ACI Latin America and the Caribbean, which we are a member of this region, because ACI has 5 regions, and we are really a member of the ACI Latin America Caribbean region.
Okay. What is the biggest benefits you would have seen so far from becoming members, especially the most recent one?
Well, from becoming members, the biggest benefit immediately is the access to those resources, the access to 300 plus world business partners that provide services, that provide equipment, etc. So what you have is our people being able to tap into those resources almost immediately, and then you see the effect on the ground. So you see work being done on the ground in a different way. You see a broader perspective being displayed by the individual member of staff. You see a different style and type of management. You see people having a greater appreciation for aviation as a profession, as a business. You see us approaching the development and the management of our airports differently. We don't see it anymore as just a facility, almost as a bus shed. The airport now is a business entity, is a business unit, and we manage it like that. And we try to have that thinking and approach transcend the entire organization. So that would be the immediate benefit. And of course, aside from that is the exposure that we get by actually going out there and participating in the meetings, the conferences, and so on. And of course, bringing them to our country now to expose the BVI not only as an aviation entity in terms of the Airports Authority, but as a wider destination, a great destination, a sought-after destination.
Okay, so you said you're now really managing the airport as a business. Are you seeing returns already?
Well, we've seen a definite return because we were given a strong mandate by the government and the board to do it differently, to do it as a business. So what you're seeing is more productivity, more efficiency, and that redounds to, that impacts your bottom line at the end of the day. So the more you streamline, the more you focus things, the more you hone in on the types of contracts that you engage in with stakeholders and concessionaires. So we, for example, have gone beyond just the basic rent. In the past, you would have seen a situation where someone engaged with the airport for space, and all they paid was the rent. But the best practice in airports, regionally and internationally, is that you engage in some form of revenue sharing. So we've introduced that to the airport, and it has been very much welcomed by the stakeholders. Well, it's an arrangement with, let's say, for example, stakeholder A who rents this space and provides that service. I don't want to mention any names.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
They present their business case, their business plan, and we tell them essentially what we're looking to achieve as well, and we try to marry the two. There's great benefit, obviously, to being at the airport as a premium location, and they recognize that just like us. So what we do is we enter into the contract for the space. However, we assure you that based on our air service development initiatives, for example, we bring in more people so there'd be greater foot traffic there. There's the possibility or the likelihood that you'd make more money. But what we're asking for on a basic level is a certain percentage of that revenue.
Okay.
So there's a legal arrangement that we enter into that is mutually beneficial.
And you get great buy-in to that?
Yes, so far.
Awesome.
So far it has been a positive response.
Okay.
Yeah.
And doing all of this, well, what about your human resources? How staffed are you? I remember some time back we had some issues with, I think it was air traffic controllers.
Yes.
How are we doing with those?
So currently the Airports Authority overall has a total complement of plus or minus, 200 staff, let's say, plus or minus 15. It fluctuates somewhere between 200 and 215 because of turnover in certain areas. I will admit that we have a high turnover in security, for example. That's our major issue, really, and it's something that we address in actively from a human resource and an operations standpoint. In terms of the air traffic control, it was an issue about a year ago when we were severely understaffed. I think we were at maximum 6 or 7 air traffic controllers. So that did not give you too much contingency in terms of something to fall back on. So what we did, we went on an aggressive recruitment drive, regionally, locally, and internationally. So you have a situation where we recruited local trainees and we sent them to Civil Aviation Training Center in Trinidad for training. We recruited experienced air traffic controllers from the rest of the region. We have a few from St. Vincent, from Dominica, etc. And we even had interest from as far as Kenya.
Wow.
But that one didn't work out. So we're at the point now where we up to 11 and ultimately we're looking to have 15. Okay. So we have that buffer just in case. So for now, we're more than meeting the regulatory requirement. And of course, the need to be operationally efficient is being maintained.
Okay.
Yes.
What about passenger travel? Has that been significantly increased recently?
Significantly. I'm not sure if I'd use the word significantly, but let me tell you exactly what it is. So prior 2019, for about 10 years, the average passenger movement through Terence B. Lettsome International in particular was just under 200,000 passengers per annum. But what we have engaged in is what we consider aggressive air service development. That's where we essentially increase the connectivity to the BVI. So we have attracted more traffic through American. The other airlines have increased their capacity. We have Inter-Caribbean, who is actually our biggest carrier in terms of passenger numbers. They carry about 40% of the passengers into Terence B. Lettsome International. And they have increased capacity with the type of aircraft. The same thing happened with Silver Airlines, Winair. You have interest from at least 2 other airlines. You have Caribbean Airlines who will likely come on at some point later in the year because they suffered some regulatory delays that are holding them back. And you've seen last year we jumped in terms of passenger numbers all the way to 235,000. That's an increase of about 40,000. And this year we're projecting just about 300,000, possibly more. And the onward projections for the coming year is actually looking better. And just the prospect of a longer runway, a more developed airport, will show you the potential of what the BVI and the Airports Authority can achieve, not just now, but into the future, long term. Yeah.
Okay. I just recently heard this discussion, and I didn't get a chance to look at it, research to see where the facts lie, but they're saying the countries with the longest air runways are not necessarily very productive in terms of the increased passenger travel.
Yeah.
Is that a fact? And trying to say that the main issue with the BVI Airports Authority is not necessarily the need for an extended runway, but other strategies to bring more aircraft.
Yeah. So I would keep it in the Caribbean context. So in the Caribbean context, you would see that the destination normally draws the traffic, normally pulls the traffic. In the case of the BVI, there's a very high demand for traffic into the BVI. You have a situation where somewhere between 250,000 and 300,000 persons land in St. Thomas and come over to the BVI annually. So that speaks something about the demand. The current infrastructure will not be able to support, for example, 600 and 700,000 people coming through Beef Island. So there's an absolute need for an extension of the runway for the further development of the airport. The approach we have taken as a board, as a government, and as an authority is to make the best of what we have now while we plan for the future. So you would see that we have increasing numbers with our current infrastructure, with our current initiatives. But what we're actually doing is preparing for the future. So while that is going on, you would see the development of a business case for the overall development of the airport, the expansion of the runway, because we know at some point we will be saturated, we will reach capacity, and you don't want to wait until the point when you actually reach capacity to extend the runway or to develop the terminal. You want to do it now. So I can tell you, for example, right now, the parking apron for the aircraft is at capacity. You see during the Christmas season, for example, when you have all of those private jets, the apron absolutely needs to be expanded. That has to be supported by an expansion of the runway and a further development of the terminal and the surrounding infrastructure. And of course, the wider plan has to take into account what goes on in the wider community, in the society, and in the country. And I'm very confident, of course, that the government is dealing with that side of it.
Yeah, we know that it's not so much your plate. But what's happening at Virgin Gorda and Anegada airports?
Well, we trying to, in terms of Virgin Gorda, again, the demand is there. There's a certain type of clientele that visits Virgin Gorda, evidently, and that demand remains there. It has increased recently with the addition of, I'm forgetting the name of the airline.
That's okay.
Tradewinds.
Tradewinds.
So Tradewinds, Cape Air are operating into Virgin Gorda, and both of them are increasing frequency. So you're seeing that demand increase. We're seeing the numbers increasing there. In the case of Anegada, it remains as required. It remains like on a prior permission notice. So it's basically charters going in there, because there is the demand, but we have to get into more concrete plans of how we're going to advance the airlift into Anegada. So our air service development plans definitely have to incorporate all 3 airports and all 3 islands, and not just Beef Island or Terence B. Lettsome International Airport.
Okay, I led those conversations around all the airports and the pros and cons to bring us back to what is going to be happening here in the month of July. What are some of the more integral things that you're going to be putting on the table as you sit around with other international bodies when we come for Airports Day?
So this is actually very good, because when you consider all we just spoke about in the context of the development of the airport, we looked at that as we came up with the agenda for the event on July 9th. So for example, one of the first things on the agenda is air service development and the importance of air service development to a destination. Air service development is really increasing that connectivity to the destination, in this case, the BVI. And how do we do that? By attracting the airlines, by working along with our other partners, particularly the tourist board, considering the other forms of travel that impact the BVI, for example, coming over on the ferry. And we work along with the tourist board to speak to the airlines to get them in here. And the major consideration is not just the connectivity, but the catalytic effect of the connectivity in terms of the impact on the economy, the impact on the destination in terms of filling up those hotel rooms, creating jobs, etc. Another item on the agenda is airport concession management and airport development. That speaks to the various ways and avenues you could take to develop an airport, whether in terms of financing, infrastructural development. Based on the agenda, a lot of the people around the table and in the room would be experts in those areas. So beyond the discussion on the stage, there would be discussions obviously in the crowd during the networking events and so on. And the BVI would have an opportunity to interact with those people. So when the time comes to actually engage in an actual development or in an air service development negotiation, you know the people because you've met them before. Another area we're looking at is the importance of aviation and airports to the tourism industry. So that one is almost self-explanatory.
Yes.
So we're actually going to have, for example, the Secretary General of the Caribbean Tourism Organization on that panel. We're going to have our Director of Tourism, Mr. McCoy. We're going to have some airport development people from around the region. And we're also going to have the International Air Transport Association representative for the Caribbean. And they're going to speak about how the Caribbean as a region is impacted by aviation, how the fact that those airlines are so, and the passengers so attracted to the destinations, what effect does it have on the destination, on the country, on the economy. And again, those people would be on the stage, in the crowd, during the network events, and all of us would be engaging. So again, that would build the capacity. So if you come in there with zero, with a blank slate, you will leave with something. If you come there with more than a full slate, you will share with somebody, and that is what we're looking to do, because we're also looking to share best practices, because there are best practices that could be learned from a smaller airport, a smaller destination, a more unique destination like the BVI. So it's not that the BVI is just looking to take or just to learn from them. We have best practices in terms of airport and aviation development and tourism development and management that we would want to share as well.
Okay,
Yes.
In terms of participation, I know for a fact there's some entities when we have these types of events happening on or occasions in the Virgin Islands, it does not necessarily see the participation of your ground level staff. To what extent you are spreading out the attendance at these so that every level of your staffing gets a feel of what this room is about?
Yeah, so to start with, our planning committee involves every level of staffing. So we have what we consider an all-inclusive and collaborative approach to management at the Airports Authority. And once we had decided to host this event, we put together a planning committee that included a cross-section of the staff. Even apart from that, the registration, while it cannot obviously be open to all of the staff because we are an airport and we can shut down for everybody to attend, we do our best to engage a cross-section of the staff. Definitely our directors, our managers, some of our supervisors, and the intention is for that exposure to be spread throughout the organization. So there will be interaction, not just at the event itself, but we have a few social events planned and tours of the airport, etc., etc. So there will be that interaction. Because again, it makes no sense if you set it up here and it does not transcend the organization. So we look definitely to do that.
What's the biggest thing you're looking to come out of this observation this year?
Well, the biggest thing is the exposure really for the destination, for the Airports Authority, and for us to establish ourselves or to further establish ourselves locally, regionally, and internationally as a player in the aviation, in the aviation sphere, in the airport management sphere. We want to show that we have a voice, we are open to learning, and we will learn because we have to draw from those who have done it before. But we also want to show that we establish ourselves around the table as a player who has an absolute contribution to make.
Okay. At July 9 and the days leading up to July 9, what's the traffic like you anticipate? How many persons you think are going to be coming to these territories?
Yeah, so we cater in terms of the event for up to 120 people.
Okay.
At last count, our foreign registration was up to 70 and climbing. So even at 70, we're actually very happy with that because the rest of the 120 would be augmented by our local participation. And again, it may very well cut off at about 70 because you want that local participation
as well
from the tourism industry, from the tourist board, the airlines, the other stakeholders, our staff as well. We want them to fill up those other seats there.
Okay.
Yeah. So awesome. we may very well touch somewhere between 100 and 120.
Okay, yeah. Awesome. A great update. I'm so happy to know that at such an early stage of you being a member of ACI, that major event is being held here in the Virgin Islands. It says a whole lot, and we look forward to every success, and we look forward to seeing and hearing more from you as to where do we go with airports development here in the Virgin Islands. I know there are quite a number of other things for us to discuss, but we want to give that moment to Airports Day that is coming up on July 9 and seeing all the delegates coming in and seeing the Airport Authority getting fully involved in such a significant observance that happens for airports. Kurt Manal, thank you so much for stopping by and sharing, and thank you for the pleasure of your time. I'm Kathy Richards.
We know that where you choose to bank matters, and it is your vote on what your funds do in strengthening our community. As your official Bank of Paradise, we invest and support the lifeblood of our economy by helping in the realization of personal goals for homeownership, education, and entrepreneurial visions, which support small businesses. We make it our place to connect with persons and worthy causes, and we have been doing so for more than 30 years. Where your money goes and what your dollars empower are your choice. And we thank you for choosing us, a bank that gives where it matters the most, for you, for our community, and a happier tomorrow. The National Bank of the Virgin Islands.
Are you searching for new home decor items that reflect the season's latest trends? Look no further than Right Way Home. From cushion sets to decorative vases, we have unique pieces to suit every style and budget. Discover your right fund at the right price, only at Right Way Home and Right Way Stores.